Hello everyone, this is the English speaker, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about your accent and why I think it's important that you pay attention to it. Now obviously, whenever you're learning a new language, when you first start speaking that language, you're not going to be pronouncing every single word correctly or pronouncing it the way in which a native speaker would be pronouncing it. But if you ask me, that should be your ultimate goal when you're learning a new language. You should always be striving to reach that point where people may think you're a native speaker. And there are a couple important reasons why I think that should be your final goal. The first has to deal with just interacting with people that are native speakers of the language that you're trying to learn. So for instance, I am speaking English, and when I'm speaking with someone else, I automatically judge, and I do this unconsciously, I automatically judge what that person is saying based in part on the way they are saying it. And we can try not to do this, but it's really hard not to judge the way in which someone is speaking. And in many cases, people who are new to English and don't speak it fluently, they come across as being unintelligent, even though in most cases they might have very intelligent thoughts, very intelligent ideas that they want to express. The fact that they don't know the language well enough means that they are not able to present those ideas in a coherent manner. And when that happens, people may get the impression that you're not intelligent or you don't know what you're talking about. And most people will realize that, okay, this person is new to speaking English, and they will be patient with you and help you get your ideas out. But some people won't do that. Some people will probably just dismiss you and not really pay attention to what you have to say because of your lack of fluency in the language. So that's one reason I think it's important to try to reach the level of fluency so that when you're conversing with someone else, they get a true impression of the ideas and the thoughts that you're trying to represent. And the second point that kind of leads to is that native speakers will be really impressed if they come across this person who has learned English as a second or third or fourth or fifth language, and they speak it really well. Because we all know that English is not a super easy language because we have so many words that we don't pronounce in logical ways based on their spelling. So if a person, an American say, comes across someone from another country that has learned to speak English so well that you can't even tell that it's their second or third or fourth language, we will often be impressed by that. And that can go a long way in terms of building relationships with people in a foreign country. And just to give a little bit of an example why this is important to me, I was lucky enough to be able to spend a year down in South America. And the majority of that year I was in Ecuador. And when I first got there, I had a decent level of Spanish. I would say I understood about 70% of what was going on around me. But in terms of speaking, when I first got there, I could not express what I wanted to say, and I wasn't able to think fast enough and translate what I wanted to say from English into Spanish and then spit that thought out before everyone else had already moved on to a different conversation. But over that year, with practice, that got better. And what was really fun is when you get to the point where you can converse fluidly in a conversation with native speakers, to the point where everyone else kind of forgets that you are not a native speaker. And the best compliment that I ever got, which only happened, it's happened a couple times, is if you're talking with someone and they think that you are a native speaker. They don't realize that this is not your first language. And it's really cool when that happens. It's really really exciting, and a huge confidence booster in terms of interacting with whoever you're trying to make friends with. And I know some of you might be learning to speak English while you are studying here, or maybe just spending some vacation time. But I can tell you that if you work on pronouncing things correctly as a native speaker would, that can go a long way in terms of making friends and getting involved with people here in the United States. Or I guess it's a completely different case if you're in England, in Europe somewhere where they're speaking English, because obviously we have a different accent. And I know even within the United States we have a ton of different accents depending on what part of the country you are in, whether you're on the West Coast or on the East Coast, or maybe you're in the South. I myself am from the West Coast, and I don't feel like I have any particular strong accent. Like some people have a real strong Irish or Boston accent, or a southern drawl. But my impression is that my way of speaking English is relatively neutral. Um, but you will notice differences throughout the U.S. So while it's important for you to pay attention to the way you're speaking English, also understand that depending on where you go, we're going to be speaking English in a different way, and that's true. I imagine in almost any country. Was true in South America in terms of the Spanish that I heard in Ecuador compared to the Spanish you hear in Chile. So my suggestion would be, if you are going to a particular place, or if you are in a particular spot in the U.S. or somewhere in Europe, um, that you should do your best to listen to the way, listen very closely to how those around you are speaking, and try to mimic that form of speech. That's what I did in Ecuador, and after doing that for a long enough time, you begin to see results in the way that you speak that language, and that can make all the difference. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about that topic. I don't know if this will be useful to anyone, but it's something that's kind of interested me, and something that I spent a lot of time on while I was learning to speak Spanish down in Ecuador. Feel free to leave some comments down below the video here on YouTube if you have any questions, and either myself, I'll respond to them, or if there are general questions like, what did you say, what did you mean at this time, or what did you mean when you said this, I will try to answer them. Or if any of you listening think you guys know the answers of what I was trying to say, feel free to answer the questions of others if you think you might have a response. All right, until next time, have a good day.